Hey everybody, welcome to Amateurish Adventures. Decided to come out to Holyoke, Massachusetts today to, what's the name of the tower? Scott's Tower. So, after a nice little mile-long hike, here's what we got. So, we are going to be going and exploring that.
You took my heart, it's already broken. You don't have to wait, I can take the pain. I will surrender, let me go on a new adventure.
We visited Scott Tower in May 2023, as this was a destination that continued to appear while looking for new places to explore in our area. Upon visiting, it was decided that another documentary should be made to highlight the former beauty and history of what this now little-known park once was. We also learned from our investigations that there is a possibility this now derelict park and its infamous tower may be resurrected and fully restored. My name is Jason. Thank you for visiting our channel. Welcome to Series 2 in our documentaries. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to Amateurish Adventures for more content like this. Scott Tower, located on Anniversary Hill in the center of Holyoke, Massachusetts, and within close proximity to Community Field Park, is a shadow of its former self. What was once Holyoke's largest and most impressive park has all but disappeared, being reclaimed by nature and vandals. According to Holyoke City documents, in 1923, the outstanding feature of the year's attainment for Holyoke Public Parks was the purchase of Crafts Hill, north of the city, to make a central park for Holyoke. Together with the gift of the large tract of land on top of the hill by Colonel Walter Scott, and that means that the crest of the splendid hill north of the city all the way to East Hampton Road to Cherry Street is saved for the use of the people for all the future. The documents continue. The matter of securing Crafts Hill for a city park has been under discussion for 20 years. Its purchase was created as a memorial of Holyoke's 50th year of municipal life, hence the name of the park, Anniversary Hill Park. Incorporated in 1850, Holyoke officially became a city in 1873. The new Anniversary Hill Park was dedicated with an enormous pageant depicting Holyoke history involving an estimated 3,500 people. An audience of 100,000 watched. Though the land was preserved, not much landscaping was done. But by all accounts, the 135-acre park was a success, filled by picnickers in the summer and sledding in the winter. Its popularity was so great, in fact, that 15 years later, during the Great Depression, it was given a tremendous facelift. As part of the Works Progress Administration, or WPA's efforts to fight unemployment while upgrading the nation's public spaces and infrastructure, $336,000 project was initiated to transform the hill into a world-class municipal park and recreation area, which will be unexcelled in western Massachusetts. The Holyoke Daily Transcript and Telegram promised in January 1940. With paths especially constructed for baby carriages, the architect's dream of mothers and nursemaids wheeling their carriages through shaded glens. It will be complete, even to the babbling brook, benches, and pine groves. For 3 years, a crew of 100 local workers built roads, paths, bridges, and a tower at the top of the hill. The newspapers of the time freely compared the future park with New York's Central Park, even suggesting that it would surpass it in quality. Later in 1940, the Park and Recreation Commission voted to change the name of Anniversary Hill to Scott Field, and they also named the tower the Walter Scott Memorial Tower. Though it took 2 more years to complete, the tower was already attracting thousands of local and out-of-state visitors. The report from the commission stated that a planned observation deck and ski slope had been abandoned due to the lack of manpower, but should it be revisited, there was a balance of over $200,000 left to complete it. In the meantime, 32 fireplaces and 22 picnic tables had been built, and the Parks Department had furnished firewood for the day trippers. On December 11, 1941, not long after work on the park had been completed, Holyoke's Volunteer Air Raid Observation Post was moved from the gatehouse of the Ashley Reservoir to the top of Scott Tower. At 450 feet above sea level, its excellent view of the surrounding countryside made it a perfect lookout for potential air attacks, and city officials collaborated with the Army and American Legion on establishing a camp at the tower. 3 telephone poles brought electricity and a telephone to the small outpost built at the tower's base. After World War II and through the 1950s, the park thrived. With the Mount Tom Reservation and the Mountain Park Amusement Park nearby, the people of Holyoke had a wide variety of outdoor recreation options minutes away. The beginning of the end for this plethora of public pastimes came in early 1960s, however. A newspaper clipping from May 15, 1962, reported that the city's Park and Recreation Commissioners went on record opposing State Highway Department plans for elimination of a bridge at Community Field for proposed Interstate 91. The bridge had originally been planned as a way of preserving access to the park and tower, but as the road system began to be built, the bridge was eventually deemed too expensive. The revised plan was for an access road, but the commissioners feared, correctly it seems, that it would not be built until after the interstate, and access to the tower would be cut off. In the end, of course, the state DPW and the Federal Bureau of Public Roads had their way, and soon after the highway was built, the park and tower fell into decline. In the early 1970s, President Nixon initiated an effort to preserve existing urban parks and build new ones. The $200 million program known as the Legacy of Parks provided municipalities with matching grants for park projects, and Holyoke applied. By 1976, scaffolding had been raised around the tower, repairs had been made, and the graffiti was painstakingly removed, but the preservation efforts didn't stick. Throughout the 1980s, rather than welcoming families to recreate, the lonely road heading under the highway and up into the woods attracted people who had garbage they wanted to dump free of charge, and illegally, of course. Stolen cars were driven up into the forest and stripped for parts. When a local citizens group began cleanup efforts in late 1993, after hauling 75 tires, assorted fenders, and an engine block from the woods, one member said, "I think we could have built a car." Old refrigerators, stoves, and washing machines also went into the 2 dumpsters brought to the site. In 1994, a story in the Springfield Union News declared the park restored to its former glory. But in March 2000, the same paper reported another dumping incident in the park. This time, though, there was no mystery about who the perpetrators were. A Board of Health citation accused then Holyoke Parks Director Philip A. Chasky of running an illegal solid waste dump in the park. A large pile of tree trunks was deposited near the tower. Elsewhere, there was a pile of broken park benches, and in another pile were an air conditioner, couches, and other furniture. After an argument with Mayor Sylvan, Chasky and his staff made several trips to the site and removed the piles, but the reporter noted a lot of debris still remaining at the site. Chasky is no longer Parks Director. The interest in the tower and the park continued in 2000, and a new group was formed to investigate improving the park and saving it. In September, shortly before she was voted out of office, State Rep. Evelyn Chesky, the parks director's mother, approved $200,000 in state matching funds for saving the park. And later in the year, AT&T proposed building a cell phone tower on the site. The committee that had been formed in 2000 to determine the future of Scott Tower initially rejected AT&T's offer to build a cell phone tower on the site. Even though the communications company was offering an annual lease fee of $30,000 plus half the rental fee they'd charge other phone carriers, the committee feared the second tower would dwarf and detract from the first one. They recommended Mayor Sylvan turn AT&T down. He did not. The second tower was built, and now heading north on Interstate 91, it's a private tower that's visible sticking up from the forest canopy, just as you pass the Veterans Home. While the second tower was built, the Scott Tower Community Field Revolving Fund was established so that the proceeds from AT&T's fees would go toward maintaining the two public spaces. In 2005, $86,000 was allocated for use in the following year, and in 2006, $130,000 was allocated. Except for the new gate preventing cars from accessing Scott Tower Park and the removal of the playground and community field, it's unclear how or whether this nearly $250,000 has been spent. Terry Shepard, Holyoke's current director of the Parks and Recreation, said there are no current plans for Scott Tower, but some of the AT&T funds have recently gone toward hiring architects, Gale Associates, to rethink Community Field, though there isn't as much trash as there might once have been in the park. It's hard to go far without seeing garbage. Except for what Robert's done, neglect seems to have taken a firm hold. Even the compound around the cell tower has long since been destroyed by vandals, and access to the high-tech components is free and easy. While misallocated finances may be part of the challenge facing the resurrection of the park, a deeper altitudinal shift seems to be the chief stumbling block to returning to the park's public use. As Scott Tower fell into decay during America's wealthiest era, a deep erosion of what we believe is possible and what should be done for the public good also occurred. Not long after the cell tower was erected, terrorists attacked and destroyed the World Trade Center in New York City, and in response, without statutory authorization or court approval, President Bush authorized a wide range of surveillance measures aimed at the American public. One such measure was requesting communication companies to permit the government to monitor private cell phone conversations. Many companies complied with this request, including AT&T. This illegal abuse was uncovered in 2005 by the New York Times, but it continues today. The first tower on the hill was built during one of the most difficult financial crises the country has ever faced, the Great Depression, with no other interest than bringing people together and serving the public good. The paths and bridges were built to offer sanctuary from the rigors of daily life. The sweeping vistas the tower provided were intended to unite. The new cell phone tower, though, was built with private interests in mind. and its corporate owners were clearly more concerned with their business objectives than the interests of those they served. The second tower, rather than uniting the public, spies on them. Preventing Scott's Tower's final fade into obscurity will, like the rest of our damaged country, require more than piles of cash. More importantly, we will need to rediscover the value in community and in undertaking ambitious projects for the common good.